Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We're on Apocalypse Imminent today, and this is a really difficult map to really push once things get established. So there's bridgeheads on either side of Dimitri, the center zone. There's bridgeheads between Feder, Cheriton, Elena, and Yacht, and all of that. And the opener here is so crucial, and for some reason, whenever I'm playing this map, I really want to make good use of USSR, get their helicopters in play, get their planes really out there. I mean, it's a big map, you have a lot of space for that, you have a lot that you can do. The problem is that I'm not very good with USSR, so sometimes there's an apocalypse imminent for me as well. But as we are getting started here, our opponents are the Staffman, Milamia, and Brutta LK, and we're doing a bit of, I'm getting some help here in the sky, and then it's sort of 1.5 people toward Dimitri. So I have a bunch of BTRAs headed over. Lynx H7s were spotted, and I suspected they were probably carrying special forces or something. I mean, it looks like that's going to be SAS because they're shooting in and actually take down one of my allies' helicopters, but we managed to panic them and are able to get the punch there, and this is what I'm talking about. The opener here is so crucial because if all of this stuff from LK gets in and gets into Dimitri, I'm going to have, well, not a very good time shaking it out. So instead, my Akula is up here trying to kill all of these things before they can cross the bridge. Gornostrelki 90 and Mi-8 MTVs were chosen on purpose for this to try to get those Metis M missiles online, and so far it's working. Also nice support here from Fierce with his Oraus, getting those bombs on the way. Challenger 1 Mark III, Challenger 2. I mean, this is why pushing bridgeheads is so hard, and the entirety of our team's opener was really geared toward discouraging the Blue 4 team from being able to cross this bridge. If we can manage to get the middle ground here and keep it for the entire game just at +1, that's often good enough. Meanwhile, I think they were having a bit of a hard time capping things. This is a 3v3, so of course minimum 3 command vehicles getting started, and we went for Anna, Boris, and strangely enough, Elena. The reason for that is we actually had a bit of a miscommunication and went to double cap Boris, but if you don't want to have miscommunications, I highly recommend like, share, subscribe, and all that standard YouTuber nonsense I have to ask for. It's, it's part of the gig, right? And I'd really like to get up to 500 subscribers and be able to do that 500 subscriber live stream that I put out a message about a couple of weeks ago. And we're getting pretty close. It'd be pretty nice. So L15M getting his bombs away on a Stormer, and it's a bit risky. I mean, double Wolverine and a Stormer, but if it had worked, that would have been worthwhile. It looks like the plane did get out, but without that kill, the L17Ks are going to back off. And now, my job here, right now, what I'm thinking in my head is make sure that this center zone is unassailable, and part of that means getting some scouting up to the right, knocking, preventing people from coming around this side. I've done that rush before. You go around. There is a thin strip of land on this side that you can navigate, and you can come around here in force, clear out this section of woods, and then attack in pincer movement from Gregory and from the right-hand side. So that's sort of what Fierce is pinging, and that's what I'm moving to already with some BRDM 3s. And then we're trying to cross the bridge into Cheriton and Yacht, but it's going to be a little bit tough. And there's a reason that the name of this episode has something to do with lots of bridges, because, frankly, I mean, it was pretty impressive play, both from some of my teammates and from some of the Blue 4 players. Yeah, well, there's a reason I picked it. So, M113 ADATS is spotted, killing one of my BTRs. These guys are multi-purpose defined. Look at that, 2,800 meter range against ground, 3325 against helicopters, and lots of AP, lots of missiles to boot. There's a reason it costs 110 points, and there's a reason that we should all play, of course, Canada national decks in order to make good use of it. That's what I think. I'm definitely not biased in any way in that regard. Definitely don't mind the fact that I lived pretty close to Canada for a while. So. Anyway, wonderful unit, just very expensive, so I was hoping to get some artillery on it, maybe some bombers on it, and I was not sure what was going on in the skies. So we have L12s, pretty rare you see those, L17Ks, bit more common, Yak 141 from Depression here, and he's actually playing a Soviet airborne deck, so I had expected to see the Yaks from him, going after a Baz and chasing him across the river. That's actually some pretty nice commitment, trying to even get the short-range missiles online, but it's a really valuable target as well, and just not able to get the kill, as that 30% ECM does unfortunately hold out. So, BTR's BRDM-3s moving up. I'm also trying to get some tours to discourage the air game around this side, and then we'll get some ATGMs and things like that headed into that section of woods to prevent any sort of shenaniganry, at which point it becomes a lot easier to help out in Cheriton, to help out in Feder. Large concentration of troops here, by the way. I was going to ask Crippling about that later on, so, well, now doing it. BDB-90, Igla ends, Skreshits, but all of it so clumped up in that section of woods. The whole time I was seeing this, I just had in my head a couple of artillery barrages coming in and wiping all that stuff out. So it does look like it's going to spread out a little bit, and that's what my ping is there for, was asking, hey, you know, what's going on? Just because every time I've pushed across from Cheriton into Fetter, the first thing I do is I smoke here, and I hit this section of trees with something like an Uragan, something like, I don't know, even 10-second aim time howitzers, just to see if I can get any fragile kills against things like ATGM teams that might be trying to zone out across the river. So that was all the ask was there. BTR-80 making his way across, and just honestly hoping to get into my opponent's back lines, but an FV-712 Ferret, which of course is the fiercest and most ferocious of ferrets, is going to be able to lock me off on that side. And I mean, I didn't really have ATGMs with scouting to really push in. I didn't want to be smoking over there to draw attention to it, because it's such an easy place to block off. So attempted infiltration wasn't really all that successful, but such is life. And then we had another little double cap miscommunication where we had actually a double cap on center, and because of that my K-29TB is going to be moving up, and there's no real good place for it here that I know of. So if you do know of a good place to put CV and Dimitri, I'm all ears. And all I could think of was, if I can screen them out here, they probably shouldn't be able to get recon all the way back into this corner. And then this is, I think it's a low grass type deal, so it might obscure just a little bit. I really don't know. That was the hope, is just to have it be far enough away from the front, and it's, I mean, it's a 5 strength infantry, and if they didn't see this land in, I mean, probably would have been smarter to land him here and walk him across, but, you know, can't be perfect all the time. So this is what I was talking about. Zeldas are actually crossing the bridge. So some Zeldas from Milamia playing as Israel, of course, doing a first little crossing there, and I mean, that was just demonstrated why that's hard. So Brskaya Pez, Mi-24V, everything shooting from over here, and the Matliukas maybe a little bit closer up than would be really ideal, because, well, I don't know, a bit of a mixed bag. If they can get up to the forest edge and shoot across, that's nice, but they need the recon to do it as well. I would have loved to see some recon infantry in that section of town right here, because, I mean, that would be honestly some pretty great vision. So the Ferret, building on his success, has attempted to push across, and I did actually lose more to it. My BRDM-3, I mean, geez, the swing fires actually outrange this guy pretty significantly, and I don't have the armor to tank that, so I was pretty worried, but the Ferret really can't stand up to things like infantry, Spetsnaz Gru, and that's why the Spetsnaz Gru are headed over here. We're going to get into this section of woods, and then hopefully be able to screen out those fragile ATGM recon vehicles, and if we can kill them, that's pretty nice too. The recon Ferrets are decently expensive at 45 points, I believe. Yeah, 45 points. So at this point, as any good Soviet player, I have an Uragan, I have a Smerch, I'm providing that long-range support for my allies while just holding the middle zone here, and the idea was, okay, well, we're fine, I'm just going to move these, fire and move, and then maybe be able to get some helicopters online for mobile response teams, some planes online for mobile response teams, and be able to be impactful while not staying in one place, right? So maybe supporting push on Cheriton. And, you know, at this point in the game, we were sitting there going, okay, why push the Zeldas across? Why push the Rovai across? This is just, I mean, it's deadly. It's sort of a bit of a risk. But the Tifa-E starts to turn the tide, killing a really expensive pair of helicopters here. 1, 2, down they go. And the Rovai are still alive, right? So Matlukas are dead. The helicopters are dead. There's Spetsnaz Gru now up here from Crippling, who apparently read my mind and already had them on the way. But, I mean, they're on the ground. They're still moving, and that's going to tell the Blue 4 team that they can potentially build on that. And quite frankly, with what we have over there right now, I agree. It would probably take more than one team member committing, but that's exactly what we have. So the Staffman and Milamia both bringing stuff over there in the column, and then Brutta even, so LK over here getting some infantry on the ground headed over that way as well. And this was actually pretty scary at the time. So 3 people teaming up on 1, even if it's a bad position, they can often do some very good things, just weight of numbers. And the Merkava 2As are starting to do that. Hammers, probably with Sanahim inside would be my guess, or Shiatet 13, something fast-moving and expensive, are making good use of smoke, trying to get into the woods. They'll probably go from there into the sections of town on that side, just sort of trying to screen things out. And we need to respond, so that's Fierce saying the same thing, just hey, there's an attack going on here. We were in voice as well, so we were able to sort of talk about it. And a decent response from the Matlukas up on the high ground, so 1, 2 shots in. and they took down a pretty expensive tank, which was actually the 2B transport for Symvrova 890. It's a 90-point option, and they don't have that many rounds, but honestly, so nice for getting impactful fire support up to the front. If I knew how to play Israel anyway, I would do more. And yep, it was Shayatet in the Shayatet in the Hammers. This is a hard fight. I mean, going open ground versus towns, where I think you get 70% damage mitigation for infantry, but they're just moving in. They're going to get into the town themselves, and Shayatet will definitely win that fight, even if there are some suffering from some morale impacts there. So I don't know. It was a bit scary. Lynx 3 getting around the side, Siphon getting around the side, and I mean, there's paratroopers, there's Saxons, there's more and more and more, and two Bazes trying to screen out. Big air engagement going on. Yak 141 and the L12s just sort of, I think, just trying to meat shield the incoming fire, which, I mean, that's one way to do it, I guess. We do get one of the Bazes, potentially even two. No, not quite so much, as the PU does miss his second shot, and actually exposes himself to some Barkans, which will be kind of embarrassing. You know, get shot down by a Barkan as a Su-27 PU pilot. So, I think one of the things that I noticed about this is that my artillery wasn't really that impactful. It was not able to deter them that much. I mean, I've been told before it's an offensive tool. I am, however, a slow learner, and maybe we're finally getting somewhere up close to saying, okay, yeah, you're right, and using it defensively to just discourage any sort of attacks really didn't seem to be working, because look at this. Millimeter coming in with more, LK getting his Grizzlies up, Staffman with the TOW 2. I brought an MI-28 around, and that will do some decent work, but I don't really have the tools to kill the TOW 2, and at this point, we're really just mostly killing Zeldas, which is fine if they have infantry in them. That's sort of the idea here, is to get double the value there. And then over on this side, I've brought in a bunch of MTLBVs, and we're just going to try to do a bit of a push. So I have a Vasilevsk as well, and that's going to be smoking off parts of Gregory, particularly where I saw that there was an ADAT before. I want to get these guys across the bridge without too much trouble. Then we have a T-80A that's going to be coming up to support. So not the heaviest tank, certainly not the heaviest tank, but the reason I picked it was the 2,800 meter range reflex ATGM, because I was fully expecting to see more of those ferret recon vehicles, and this guy outranges them with decent accuracy, decent AP power. So the idea was screen out with cheap Monostrelki and MTLBVs, and then use the T-80A to get good kills on armor from a distance before I even really need to involve that main gun. That was the hope. We'll see if it works out that sort of way. My Mi-28, meanwhile, was pulled back just because we didn't have that good optics here, and everything else is coming up to handle it, so I'm going to be moving him forward again only when he becomes really a potentially impactful tool. We did also just lose a helicopter here as well, so I was aware of that, and that's going to be just sort of going, well, is it a good time? Is it a good time? Because this guy's too expensive to throw away. 130 points is a significant investment. Now, we can see I was right. There's a ferret over there. There's a Challenger 2. I was asking my teammates, I think one of them had an ATGM plane already purchased, if they could handle the Challenger 2, so that's going to be an attack marker there, and the T-80A and the Ferret are doing precisely what I wanted. He can kill an MTLBV, I don't really mind, if I can get the Reflex ATGM online first, and there it is, there's the kill. So pretty nice, good utility off of this tank, I think, for what it's worth, but not going to be able to take down the Challenger 2 on our own. So 27M coming in, gets the shot, gets the kill, takes that guy out, leaving just a single Stormer in that section, which may even be taken out by the L-15. So that's combined, that's all three of us. Crippling had the ATGM plane, Fierce had the L-15M, and the staff man on the blue team has an F-111C. Still, he's flying it into two tours, which, unfortunately, these guys, I tend to find that I'm not impressed by their accuracy. So we had the potential for a nice kill there, because all he was doing is taking out Motostrelki, pretty much. And we could have gotten a pretty nice, low availability, high cost plane, but not quite able to pull that off. In the meantime, nice response here with the NRZ 128s. These guys are pretty rare, you don't see them all that often, but combined with some artillery, they were really, I mean, you catch infantry in the open ground with the Plominés, you will not regret it. 4 HE power is no joke. Even with the low number of rockets, these guys can easily kill probably 2 units of infantry per NRZ in ideal conditions, which you don't always get ideal conditions, but you do the best you can. Mi-4AV, meanwhile, proving why people don't particularly love this helicopter, is just not really able to kill paratroopers. So, I mean, there are shades of quality, I guess, would be my comment. So my tour, got a little bit misdirected. I was trying to go up on this side, and this guy is headed over to the right there, but my other tour gets a little bit out ahead of himself and is going to be taking fire directly from the woods. In the meantime, enemy Stormer shooting in, and yep, that's going to be taking him down. I was hoping to get counterfire on the Stormer, but without good optics up here, I was expecting, and there it was. We do lose sight right before the reflex did fire, and actually, I think a bit of a glitch there. It didn't shoot, but we did lose the missile. So maybe it was just in that last sort of second of technically not fired, technically was fired. A little bit of confusion, but Rakava 2As, and I will say, despite about 10 minutes of counterattack at this point, the Blue 4 team is on our side of the field, and that is some pretty scary stuff. There's also an Oslov 25 taking truly the long road around here, attempting to get around our backline, was spotted, but hasn't so far been taken out. That will, however, prompt the Staffman to surrender, but this game still does have some legs in it, so we're going to go a little bit faster as we sort of deal with that. LK bringing a quad stack of autocannon recon vehicles up there. Bit of a choice. But I do still have Motostrelki, Spetsnaz Gru, and we spot the enemy command vehicle. This game is probably over, and LK also left, so we're fighting just against Milamia. And it ended up being about 10 minutes of sort of cutting off the advance here and then pushing even farther into Gregory. So I think for right now what I'd like to do is say thank you to my allies and my opponents, Staffman, Milamia, and LK, as well as Crippling and Fierce for a very fun game, and on a really fun map. And I think we had a good opener, we think we had some good teamwork, and also just something you very rarely see. So with that said, thank you all for hanging around. We'll see you again real soon.